Welcome to the EQ Video Tip. I'm your host, Eric Forsetter. It's great to have you here. We've got a terrific show as always. Before we get started, let's jump into the goals of EQ Video Tip. Welcome back. We've got a great show on tap. We're going to talk about 3 ways to better understand your emotions. And this comes to us from Susan David. She is a #1 Wall Street Journal best-selling author for the book Emotional Agility. And she's going to talk to us today about how emotions are a key to leadership skills, but it's also figuring out and labeling your emotions correctly. And what do we mean by that? Well, a lot of times we might feel angry or we might feel sad, but there's actually a deeper emotion within there. It might be feeling a different type of frustration within your anger or something like that. It's important to understand these different emotions and label them. And we'll talk about 3 better ways to figure that out and to help us in our EQ journey. Tip number 1, broaden your emotional vocabulary. It sounds pretty simple, but it's something that we all need to do. It could be as easy as going to Google or maybe using this sheet that I'm going to throw up here on the screen right now. Think about the different types of emotions you feel, whether it's angry, sad, anxious, hurt. Think about anxious for a second. Anxious, are you afraid? Are you vulnerable? Are you bewildered? Are you confused? Are you being cautious? All those different emotions apply there. The same thing when you're feeling sad. Why are we sad? The other day I was disappointed in something. I wasn't really sad, but I thought I was sad. I was actually just disappointed. It could be that you're pessimistic. It could be that you're tearful or dismayed. But again, labeling those emotions and also saying what they mean is very important too. Because you don't want to say I am something. It's better to say I feel this. So when you are anxious, maybe you label it by saying I am afraid something is going to happen. And that really will help you out in terms of broadening your emotional vocabulary. Tip number 2. Susan has a great tip here, which is consider the intensity of that emotion. Not only for yourself, but whoever you're working with or talking to. As an example, Susan talks about a time she was working with a couple and the husband always felt the wife was angry at her. When in fact the wife wasn't always angry. Sometimes she was just being grumpy or sometimes she was frustrated. And what Susan recommends is that you label the intensity and put it on a scale maybe of 1 to 10. 1 being, yeah, maybe I'm just a little grumpy, and 10 being, I'm really angry, you did something to offend me or really bother me. Those type of things will help you become better in tune with your emotions and how deeply are you really feeling that emotion and how long and how strong should it be. So take a moment to not only label the intensity of your emotions, but those that you're working with as well, to understand their importance to the people that you're working with, your loved ones, as well as yourself. Our last tip, write it out. Susan did some research, and there's actually a gentleman named James Pennebaker who's done over 40 years of research on just emotions and what to do with them. And he found that there's a huge link between writing your emotions and actually processing them. And that means when you have a bad day or you're feeling that expression of grief or anger or sadness, to write it down. He recommends setting a timer for about 20 minutes. You can write it on the computer, you can write it on a piece of paper, and figure out what those experiences are. Don't worry about making it perfect. Don't worry about all the things that go into it, but write down what you're talking about, save the document, and the point is that you put your thoughts on a page. I know for myself sometimes when I'm upset, I'll write a long email to myself and just get that frustration out, understand what's going on. When you do that, it gives you an emotional charge to really increase your mental well-being, and moreover, it helps you dive into the actual emotions that you're feeling at that time and to understand them, and not only understand them, but to process them in the long time. Because then you gain new perspective as to what the emotions are, how you can understand them, and then what to deal with them in the future. And it's very clear that the research shows people who go through this emotional writing exercise come out better at the end of the day. So take a moment when you have an emotional episode where maybe it goes up to a scale of 9 or 10, write down your emotions, understand how you're feeling, and hopefully this will help you broaden and better understand your emotions. That concludes this week's EQ video tip. Hopefully these tips from Susan will help you better understand your emotions and help raise the bar for your EQ. So that concludes our EQ video tip for today. Try incorporating some of these tips into your daily routine. But remember, use what works best for you and personalize it for yourself. Thank you always to our great research team for providing us with some great tips today. As always on EQ Video Tip, we want to end with gratitude. So thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. Here are some resources that you can use if you want more information on EQ going forward. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thank you.